Right now, we're in the middle of a snow pea patch, and this is a research plot grown by Dr. Brian A. Kahn. Brian is an associate professor of horticulture here at OSU and does research strictly on vegetable crops. And Brian, what are you trying to find out here at these snow peas?
Well, this is a little cultural study, and we've got them grown here on either one side of the trellis or on both sides of the trellis, and we've adjusted the row spacing accordingly so that per meter or per yard of row, there's the same number of peas both times, but they're spaced either 1 inch apart when they're all on one side of the trellis, or they're 2 inches apart when they're in double rows on both sides. And what we're trying to do is just see which way is a better way for them to grow, which way they're going to produce the most yield.
I see. Now, you've been harvesting these how long now?
This is the third harvest today, and we've had it for a little over a week. We're harvesting on about an every 3-day schedule.
I see. Any preliminary differences showing up?
Well, this is the second year of the study. In 1988, we did it for the first time, and the double rows consistently out-yielded the single row. And this year so far with the two harvests, there aren't any significant differences between them. They're a little bit more similar.
Well, I understand that's why you have to do research repeatedly after year, so you find out what the truth is.
Yeah, for sure. We tried to repeat it last year, but we got rained out early on in the season, and the stand just never established. And this year we came through all the heavy rains, and they came up real well.
Well, Brian, some of the gardeners don't know much about snow peas. What is the difference in those and, say, sugar snap edible pod peas?
Okay. Well, a snow pea is just another word for an edible potted pea.
Oh, okay.
And it's similar to the sugar snap in that respect, but with the sugar snaps, you want to let the peas inside develop. It's kind of like the pea that you normally shell, where you're shelling out the seeds, except with the sugar snap, you can eat the pod as well. With these, if you're starting to see the little pea seeds develop inside, then they're getting over mature. So you have to harvest them while the pea seed is still very small, because the main thing that you're after is just the pod.
Are there any insect problems among snow peas?
The main insect problem that we usually see is aphids, and most of the time your lady beetle population will keep it under control. These have never been sprayed with any kind of insecticide or fungicide, and we were able to do that in '88 as well. They did have herbicide on them at the start of the year, but as far as a low input kind of a crop, at least in terms of chemical inputs, I think it's real promising.
Great. Well, so far as their potential for a commercial crop in Oklahoma, how do you see them being used here?
I see it as a potential crop for a small acreage, maybe 1 or 2 acres per planting, because it is very labor intensive. There are large commercial plantings of it in the Pacific Northwest and in California, but they have to have migrant labor crews to do the picking. And that's probably the main limiting factor. It seems to be well adapted to the state. At least in the spring it'll grow for us, but we've got to have the labor to get it picked.
Well, I can understand that. I can see how really for here it'd be best for a market type crop. Now, you mentioned something to me before we started taping, a trick of running the trellises. Now, these are running east and west, and you said to plant them on the south side?
Yeah, the prevailing wind is going to tend to come out of the south, and so with the single rows, they were planted on the south side of the trellis, and then as the peas started to grow, then the wind just naturally pushed the vines into the trellis and helped them hook up. That's one of the problems that we saw with the double row, is that the second row was on the north side, and it didn't want to hook the trellis quite as well. It was a little bit tight when you were walking between the rows.
This looks like a good kind of trellis material that you have. It's just plain old garden netting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's commercially available garden netting. It's made out of nylon. This particular one has a 5-year warranty on it. And it's nice because it doesn't heat up the way that wire would. It won't burn the peas.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
It won't rust. It won't rot. It does come unknotted occasionally, and you'll see that the camera will pick up, but here and there are some spots where it's come apart. But other than that, this is the second year of use, and we've been really pleased with it.
Well, it looks like a good way to grow them, and probably pretty easy to remove the plants when you're through, because there aren't a lot of panels, little ones.
Yeah, it's not too hard. You can just kind of rip the plants off at the end of the year and roll it back up again.
Great. Well, I understand you all are harvesting your plots. I'll let you get back to work, but thanks for stopping and visiting with us.
Thanks for visiting.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.